In with one structural, aka ADU1, retrofit 1, and balcony 1. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to try a little different now. I know I've been doing a bunch of city spotlights the last maybe 6 months or so, if not more. Today, I'm going to just try different topics at this point, especially the more that we are doing our projects and getting plans RTI'd, approved, starting construction, finishing construction, and everything. We have now more of a pool of knowledge at this point related to the brand new territory of multifamily ADUs. So I wanted to address something today that does come up quite often with multifamily ADUs, since this is something that, again, is new, started in 2020, and it's kind of uncharted territory prior to 2020 to be able to add ADUs to multifamily properties. So I want to just go over today a few of the things that we have been noticing. Or that have been requested. So if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to ask it in the chat, which is on your right side. And here's all of our info to reach us, whether it's for ADUs, balconies, or retrofits. We're all the same company. We just have different divisions. So give us a call or email us. So today's topic is things to consider for your multifamily ADU. As mentioned, I'm going to go over some of the stuff that is asked for by city planning or just required for your ADU that you may not know of past the engineering and your set of plans on the construction. So the first thing I want to go over, which I think has actually been one of the largest requests, largest in the sense of how it affects the project, costs, and just something you should really consider. And again, these are mainly for multifamily properties. A couple of them may relate to single family, and if they do, I'll let you know. But this one specifically is for multifamily. So one of the biggest ones that we have come across now are electrical panel upgrades. So let's say you have an apartment building with 4 units and you have a certain size main switch gear. If you're going to be adding 1 attached, 2 detached, or let's say you have an 8-unit building and you're adding 2 attached and 2 detached. And again, this is in LA when you can do both. More likely than not, you will have to upgrade your current electrical panel. And this is because whatever size, amps it has won't be enough to sustain your new units. So if you are about to upgrade, your electrical panel and you're also thinking about the ADUs, I would definitely let your electrician know what you intend to do so they can guide you. And then of course, as part of the plans, you will know kind of the load, electrical load, whatever it is for the units, so you can plan accordingly for the electrical panel. So that is one item that is requested quite often that you will need. So that's just something to consider, that you will have to upgrade your electrical panel if your current panel cannot carry the new units. This kind of coincides with the next one of individual meters for these units. So to my understanding, under the law, it's not necessarily required that they have individual meters, but what we hear the most is that if all of the other units of yours, pay for their own services and utilities, you would want to get it individually metered. So this is something to consider for these units. How that's done is that we will help coordinate all of that with the utility company, but you do have to get these ordered as soon as possible because it can take several months. So David just popped in.
Hey.
David, I'm going over things to consider for your multifamily property. I don't want to scare anybody, but I just want to kind of mention these so you can have some knowledge about it before you start your multifamily ADU project.
Things to consider when building multifamily detached and attached.
Exactly. Okay. I already went over the possibility of upgrading your main switch gear for the electrical panel to make sure that
we've been seeing that a lot, particularly when you want to add multiple units. The city will require you most likely to upgrade the entire switch gear, which could run anywhere between $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, depending on the number of units you want to add. But more importantly, it adds additional time. Because what would have otherwise had taken previously, like let's say, for example, 7 to 10 days lead time, believe it or not, now is taking like 6 or 7 months, just to get the materials. So it's very difficult for us to gauge, how long it's going to take to get the electrical gear. So that's one thing to consider.
And again, I didn't want to scare anybody, so kind of avoiding, everyone, because it really does, it varies per project, and it depends what you currently have versus what you're proposing, but just have that in mind. Meters, again, too, if you need those individually metered, that also has to get set up early, so that doesn't start a backlog as well for getting your units ready to rent.
Yeah, but we have a whole office here of people who are just, tasked with obtaining meters, getting clearances through the city. So we can help you with that aspect of the
Exactly.
job. We handle that.
We do all of it. We coordinate all of it. We manage all of it. So that way we'll be the ones getting it started as soon as possible. But that is just something that we want you to know about when thinking about, any additional costs or what else you have to do.
Timing is more important, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind when you want to plan out when you want to start receiving rents or how long the project's going to take. Just keep those utilities take those utilities into consideration. I think the most difficult part of all these projects is the utilities, right? Bringing utilities to the unit is the most challenging part of it. The construction is construction, framing, drywall, installation of cabinets, finish work. That's not really rocket science. The rocket science part here is bringing the utilities to the unit, upgrading the utilities, things like that.
So on that note too, kind of related to that, detached units, for example, have to be connected. The sewer line has to be connected to your main line at the street. You can't tie in, at least in Los Angeles, you can't tie them into your building. They have to be connected to the main line at the street.
Not quite at the street, at the front of the building.
Okay, front of the building.
Yeah, it'd be different if it's at the street. If it's at the street, you have to, literally go into the clay pipe into the city sewer, which would be extremely expensive. But the city is allowing us to tie into the front of the house or front of the building and then take the building sewer to the street. The reason for that is in case there's a backup in the main building, they don't want that backup to affect the additional units. I'm gonna run back to the office.
Sure.
Nice
and even better that it doesn't go to the street, but it does have to go to the front of the building. So just to have that in mind. Attached units, like conversions, have different rules. We can tie in if we can, but at least for detached, has to go to the front of the building, as mentioned. Another thing related to utilities, this is for all of California new construction. New construction ADUs have to have solar panels. So this is for detached new construction. You have to have solar panels. It is based on, of course, the size and usage of the unit. So how many appliances, outlets, and electrical components that there are in the unit will base how many kind of kilowatts that you need for the solar panels. But those are also required for new construction detached ADUs. So you will do solar. And again, we've started to include that actually in our proposals and our bids, just because we know that having to even think about setting up solar, paying for it, all of that kind of stuff is just a headache that you don't want to deal with. So we've been actually incorporating that into our detached proposals. And then I think lastly, in terms of utilities, one more thing too is that if you have a utility pole in or around the proposed ADU, you will most likely have to get that utility company involved, which don't worry about that. We do that. We complete what's called an encroachment clearance application with the designated utility company. We let them know what the proposed project is. We usually have to submit plans. We'll submit the full set of plans, if not maybe just the site plan and other things, but they want to see where it's proposed, setbacks, and if it does interfere with that utility pole or not. So we take care of all of that, and we basically just wait to see, do we get the green light from the utility company or if they have to make any adjustments. But we always get them involved, and we've never been denied, at least knock on wood, as of yet, any projects. They'll just make an adjustment as needed, maybe lift the wires if it's a two-story structure, or they've asked us the side where the pole is to maybe add one additional foot for the setback. So we follow that. We'll make revisions where needed, but that again is just something to consider. It's not a hindrance. We get through it, but it's just, again, something to consider. I think that covers it as far as utilities. So electrical panel upgrades, we will help coordinate ordering the additional meters for the unit. Solar required for new construction detached. Sewer line has to be connected to the main building, the front of the building for new detached units, and just utility encroachment as needed. Here we go. And let's see. Then a couple other things then regarding specific projects. So we get a lot of these requests, especially in LA, and this is regarding LA. Let's say you have a detached garage or carport that you wish to convert into an ADU. In Los Angeles, at least, if you just convert it into one ADU, you can keep the footprint of it, even if it's on the property line and doesn't meet those 4-foot setbacks. However, what we've been noticing in Los Angeles is that if you want to convert that detached structure into 2 units, they are making you conform to setbacks. And I believe that has to do with, now increasing density. There's going to be either 2 people or 2 families in those units. So fire safety, all of those types of reasons have to kick in. And so if you already have a structure, we will do our best to preserve as much as possible, and maybe just taking it in the 4 feet from all the way around. Or, if it's in really terrible condition anyways, we'll just propose demoing it and then rebuilding a new structure. Sometimes this works in your favor anyways, so then you're not limited to its width, since usually, they're 18 to 20 feet anyways. So if you have the space and want to just demo, you can just do 2 new units anyways, adhering to those setbacks. But that is a requirement, at least in Los Angeles, when doing 2 units. Other cities have kind of said differently. However, again, because this is something very new, a lot of cities don't have a concrete answer on what they will allow, or maybe when it's time for that fire department clearance, they'll get different feedback. But at least this is what was going on in LA. And then another thing to consider if you are converting space, this we've seen more when it comes down to basements, maybe attics, although attics are a little different, but basements, storage rooms, stuff like that. So if you have these uninhabited random rooms in your building that you want to convert, we have to make sure that the ceiling height will be sufficient enough for dwelling. At least the code in LA is 7.5 feet for living space in certain common areas, bedroom, living room, and stuff like that. So if your current ceiling height, and this also has to do with parking garages too. Sometimes they're barely 7 feet, especially older buildings tuck under parking. So if that's the case, we would most likely have to check how much we can dig. So we would have to excavate the current slab to see how far we can go. And we would do this by doing some minimally invasive destructive testing. We would drill a hole to see how far we can go in various kind of spots throughout, whether it's the storage room or the garage. In some cases, this may then, when it comes down to construction, this may require shoring if needed. If we have to dig a lot of the slab or foundation up and we interfere with any of the foundation elements, we will have to shore the building, sometimes reinforce a stem wall, do new beams, whatever it is, whatever our engineer says we have to do. I'm not too knowledgeable about the exact technical stuff that we would, but we would have to shore if we dig too much and interfere with the integrity of any of the foundation. So just keep that in mind if you are working with a more, condensed space or lower ceiling height, whatever it is. So in most cases, it's fine if we have to dig. If it's just a few inches, you can probably avoid shoring and all of that. But if it's something where we have, especially if you're trying to hit 8 feet and we have to dig a foot, then most likely we would have to do those things, or the space would have to be reduced if we cannot dig a foot in certain areas of the building. So that is about it, except of course too, there's also plan check and permit fees, which what we've been seeing for multifamily properties doing multiple ADUs can be anywhere from like $5,000 to $10,000 in plan check fees, permit fees, impact fees. There's honestly engineering bureau fees, fire department. There's so many fees that do add up, but We will work with you if you want us to include all of that. We're usually pretty flexible and can give you kind of an all-in-one package if you don't even want to deal with those additional fees or entities or anything like that to be involved. If you just want to pay for the engineering and construction and just have a budget for what those exclusions are, let us know and we'll kind of calculate at least like a rough range. So that way, again, we try our best to limit as many surprises as possible and just have all of our clients prepared, especially if you're going to get funding or lending and you need to know what to budget for. So that about does it for things to consider when building additional units for your multifamily property. And we covered everything from utilities, electricity, solar, sewer, ceiling heights, permit fees, utility encroachments. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. These are our information down below. And again, I'm Helen with One Structural, aka ADU1, Retrofit 1, and Balcony 1. So give us a call when you need any of our services. If you need to schedule any balcony inspections, please call us and we can give you a quote on what the formal report for SB 326 or SB 721 will be, but we offer complimentary element counts and walkthroughs to give you an idea of what the inspection would be. And then of course, if any repairs are needed, we can give a separate quote on that. But we've been luckily seeing minimal repairs needed, and you just at least need that report to hold on for the next 2 cycles. So give us a call, email us, and we're here to help. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.